Hello and welcome to another episode of What Travis Says. My name is Travis and let's talk about Doctor Who. More specifically, the worst viewer-rated episode of Doctor Who since its revival. Which is, no drumroll needed because you already read the title of the video, the Tsuranga Conundrum. For this rating system, I went to IMDB, where they have two main groupings for Doctor Who, the classic series and 2005 on. So I looked at the batch of NuWho episodes and I went through the ratings, and the Tsuranga Conundrum is the worst rated episode of the bunch. And it comes in as the 5th episode for the 11th season, the season that just recently ended. And that's a very important distinction to make. Because it's a newer episode, the Tsuranga Conundrum only has just over 4,000 votes. There are episodes of Doctor Who on the IMDB page that have over 10,000 votes. However, the votes for the Tsuranga Conundrum are not great. Like I said, this is the worst rated episode of the new series of Doctor Who. The Tsuranga Conundrum is currently sitting at a 5.2 out of 10 with over 4,000 votes. Now honestly, it's been a while since I've watched the Tsuranga Conundrum. I've only seen it about 3 times. I do remember enjoying the very first 10 minutes, meeting Astos, his chemistry with the Doctor, trying to save the ship, and then about 8 to 10 minutes into the episode, Astos just dies. His pod is just jettisoned into space and explodes, and then the episode just kinda goes downhill. We were then introduced to the Patron, a slightly adorable alien creature with an insatiable appetite for energy. It just keeps eating inorganic matter to get energy, and nothing can kill it, and it has toxic skin, and it's trying to be cute. But there's just so many things in this episode that works against itself. For one, the Patron just doesn't look threatening. It is threatening, I get why it's threatening, and I understand why they tried to make this threatening thing cute, but it just doesn't really work. This episode was also before any of the major characters had any really major character development, so a lot of the times they're just there. And one of the things that really annoyed me about the episode was the pacing. Like I said, the first 8 to 10 minutes with Astos, I loved that. The pacing was on point, he had great chemistry with the Doctor, and then he dies, and then the episode just has this really weird pacing going forward. Because right off the bat, if I were to ask you to imagine an episode of Doctor Who, and that episode had a medical ship with people on board, sick people, and there was this threat with an insatiable appetite that could not be killed, and there's a threat of a bomb on board, and you had 3 companions to work with the Doctor to try to figure this out, that episode would be pretty upbeat, right? At least have a lot of running, a sense of danger, a heightened heart rate, gotta move quick before we all die. And sure, there are little glimpses of that in the episode, but it just doesn't really feel like a super threatening situation. They just stop and talk too much. It just, like I said, it had really weird pacing. The cute villain, I get why they were going with that juxtaposition, but it just doesn't make the situation threatening enough. And there's a lot of talking throughout the episode. They just stop and talk a lot. There was a lot of talking. And there's just not enough running. I feel like the episode would have gone up an entire new level if there had just been more running. There's not enough running. For an episode which featured an unkillable alien threat, a crippled spacecraft, and an antimatter bomb, the episode just had no real threat to speak of. And I know that there are people that think that this episode is seriously underrated, or that they think that the Patron is so cute that it makes up for any lack of story, but what do you think? What do you think about the Tsuranga Conundrum? Do you think that it is the worst NuWho episode of all time, or do you think it just got a bad rap and in a while it's gonna be a classic Doctor Who episode? For me personally, I'm surprised that Love and Monsters wasn't closer to that #1 hated spot, but that's just me. But as always, my name is Travis. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, and you will see me tomorrow.